Okay, so it is officially 2 o'clock. Let's
Wow.
do our, but, okay, so it is 2 o'clock. Is it switching videos back and forth? Okay, good. Okay, so it's 2 o'clock. We'll go ahead and start the Q&A. We're going to run this for an hour, and if it stays popular, then we'll keep doing these. So first, I want to put a plug in that if you text COVID-19 to this number down here, 415-528-7403, or you go to oubemedical.com/COVID-19, it will subscribe you to our list that we're trying to send out emails on updates. And on that COVID-19 website, I'm putting updates, videos out. I just released one last night called "What's the Difference Between Influenza and COVID-19?" Because if you were anything like me when this thing first started, it's like, oh, no big deal. It's a flu. It's a cold. It'll just pass and no big deal. But what I do is in that video, I go through the details between what is a virus first, and then what are the difference between COVID-19 and influenza. So it is long. I'm sorry, Dad. He wanted me to make a shorter video, and it is still 30 minutes because apparently you can't stop me from talking when no one is around to stop me. So that's online. It's on the COVID-19, and we do have testing kits available. We will be testing people. Right now, there is a shortage on test kits. So right now, so I've got a website on the COVID. There's a testing link there that I will keep up to date on our current testing situation. So insurance companies are covering some of the testing, but it depends on which lab it goes to. So right now we're reserving our insurance paid kits because we don't have many for our own patients and members. And then for non-patients or the public, you are welcome to come in and get swabbed. We have test kits, but it's for the cash-based lab. We're charging $50 for the swab, and then the test price is whichever lab we have the kits for. It sounded like it's $200 for the lab testing that we have now. So that's a total of $250 to get swabbed. Unfortunately, once we have more of the insurance-based ones, we'll be doing the insurance-based ones for the public as well. It'll still be a $50 swab. So pass the information. If you're joining us, we're in Austin, Texas. So if you're out of state, we may not be able to test you. So just once again, start putting in your questions in the Q&A section, and Aiden will be moderating and choosing which questions get answered. So be nice to her because she will, Jeff Novak, be nice to her and she will answer your questions. So first I want to start off with, someone asked me during the last video about pulmonary fibrosis, and that caught me completely off guard. I had not heard anything about this virus causing pulmonary fibrosis. Anytime you get any kind of lung infection, that's always a risk and a fear, but it's relatively low likelihood of happening. Well, apparently pulmonary fibrosis is a lot bigger deal with the coronavirus COVID-19 than I understood, and it's happening fairly quickly. I said in my last video that usually pulmonary fibrosis take months to kick in. There's some reports of it kicking in with 2 weeks. Now, this is still very early news, so I don't want to say it is for sure. But what I'm working with a doctor in Europe who knows a lot more about this pulmonary fibrosis than I do. His name's Dr. Yoshi, and we will be putting out some videos and some advice and things. We're also working on a spreadsheet of ways you can track your own lung function by holding your breath, checking your pulse oximeter, tracking your vital signs, and that will help you know whether you can stay home or go seek medical care. There's going to be a huge shortage of medical care. There's already a shortage of medical care in some places. So the best thing you can do is stay home as long as possible if you're not ill, but also you don't want to stay home too long and then not get the care you need. So that we're trying to arrange that document to kind of self-serve so we don't bog down the healthcare industry too much. So with that being said, I will not talk more about the pulmonary fibrosis because that's going to we're going to have separate time for that. The next thing I wanted to talk about is we briefly talked about nutrition in our last video, and we won't reiterate those. If you're curious, Oubre did a whole stint on nutrition at the last one, so I've got Oubre here again. And so this time I want to ask her that people are talking a lot about what vitamins and what supplements to take. And as I said in my last video, it's a little too late if you're trying to bulk up on supplements and vitamins right now, as in your body bulk up. I don't mean hoard vitamins. Because if you're not eating a nutritious diet, a vitamin or supplement is not just going to make things magically better. If your zinc levels have been low before, you're not just going to take one pill and be magically normal. Your body has to absorb that, it has to sequester it, it has to utilize it, and it takes time. So by all means, start vitamins and supplements, but more importantly than any vitamin and supplement is the food you're eating. So Oubre, I want you to talk about, or whatever you have prepared, mainly it's what food should people be eating to get their vitamins and nutrients?
So I'd say right now, I know everyone's trying to bulk up on the packaged food, but there's still an abundance of produce in the grocery store. And that's what we need for our immune system, right? Save the packaged goods for later if you actually can't get access to food later, but try to consume the produce options as much as possible. The whole focus is to be like real whole foods, right? So healthy, robust fats. You're going to want pasture-raised and grass-fed protein, and then as much low glycemic carbohydrates, including produce, as possible.
You're saying all that really fast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So for the lay person that doesn't do this every day like you and I do, so you say that again. So what are they looking for in the produce? What are the simple things they can look at?
So you want to maximize phytonutrients, vitamins, and minerals, right? So the number one way to do that is to eat the rainbow of produce. They all have different vitamins of A, D, B, and C. They have zinc and quercetin, which are really wonderful right now for inhibiting viral replication and for reducing inflammation. And the best way to do that is to get every color, get blue and red and orange, yellow, get everything that you can, and try to have a little bit of each color every single day. And it sounds pretty simple, but the supplement form of vitamins and minerals are already naturally found in our foods. So there are specific foods that you can get. We will be sending out a PDF with this. That's a part of a grocery store kind of tour that we have, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'll send out a PDF talking about all the vitamins and phytonutrients and minerals in each color, and then examples of those produce. But I'd say number one thing right now, of course, for that produce, get foods that are high in vitamin C and zinc, dink. But yeah, zinc, right? So zinc's a powerful antioxidant. It's known to kind of mitigate massive inflammation, especially with COVID-19, and it reduces oxidative stress. So you want that in like citrus fruits, apples, bell peppers, tomatoes. You want to maximize the zinc in grass-fed proteins, sprouted pumpkin seeds, Brazil nuts, but you also want as much leafy greens as possible. That's your number one thing to kind of get B vitamins, zinc, other kind of vitamins and minerals that are shown to reduce inflammation and boost your immune system.
That was fast. I barely even caught all that. So the high vitamin C foods were citrus, apples, bell peppers.
Tomatoes.
And then tomatoes. And you said, so nightshades, it sounds like. And
yeah.
You said the sprouted stuff. Was that for zinc or vitamin C or both?
Sorry, zinc. So sprouted pumpkin seeds and Brazil nuts have high vitamin or high zinc. But
sprouted
zinc.
What? Sprouted pumpkin seeds?
Sorry, I didn't see that you were writing this the entire time.
That's okay. Well, I don't think anyone can. So sprouted pumpkin seeds, and what was the other thing?
Brazil nuts.
Brazil nuts. Everybody loves Brazil nuts. Lies. I know every one of you pick out the Brazil nuts and throw them away in your trail mixes. So now you have to eat them. Okay, fine. The trick is not to eat the Brazil nut by itself. You got to take like the handful of the good tasting nuts and mix them with the Brazil nuts.
There you go.
That's the trick.
Not that bad. Yeah,
yes, they are.
Well, and then if you're on like an autoimmune protocol, then you can kind of find it in wild caught seafood, oysters, and grass-fed pasture-raised animal protein.
Okay, cool. And then you said something about this PDF. What's our deal with the PDF?
Yeah, so there's two different PDFs that we'll be sending out. The first one's just going to be a summary of foods, herbs, different things that can help boost your immune system right now in the interim with COVID-19, but things that you should also be eating year round. Then the other one is going to be an excerpt from something that we have called the grocery store tour, which lays the land of marketing and advertising and how to read labels, how to navigate the produce section, and all the different vitamins and minerals. We're taking one of the PDFs from that entire package and giving it to you all complimentary. And if you want to know more, feel free to go to the oubemedical.com/COVID-19, and we'll have a link to the grocery store tour on there. It's for all of y'all, patients or not, who want to dive in a little bit more on how to navigate food in general, and especially right now when you're having to deal with boosting the immune system and getting vitamins and minerals.
Mimi is muted. She says we can't hear her for some reason. Okay, good. So that email will go out after we're done with this.
Yeah.
We'll try not to spam everyone that's subscribed to the thing. I apparently didn't update my PowerPoint, so I fixed that.
Okay.
All right. Aiden, do we have any questions that are burning, ready to be asked?
Somebody said, so no Fritos.
Paleo puffs.
Yeah, so paleo puffs are a great substitute for the junk food. It's like a cheese puff with that's paleo. They make egg versions. They make it's a bean of some sort, isn't it?
No, there's no bean because it's paleo, so there's no
Oh.
legumes. But it's like coconut flour and things
Okay,
like
way to show me up on live camera. Thanks.
that. Sorry.
But they are binge worthy, so just be careful. You don't want to eat a ton of paleo junk food either, right? That's
Right,
not
right. Yeah.
okay.
Another question. Would it be a good idea for large businesses to install UVC lamps in their HVAC units to help kill and recirculate viruses?
That's actually a really good question. So UV lights definitely kill viruses, bacteria, all kinds of the humans. They kill everything. So obviously you don't want to put it in the room you're working in, but it does kill things in the air and on the surfaces and everywhere. The problem with COVID-19 is that it's in the air, and so yeah, you can put it in your air handler and it'll clean whatever air it sucks up. But even if in this room, if we're infected and the return is not in this room and it doesn't take all the air up, it's not going to get it all. Will it reduce your exposure? Will it reduce live living organisms like mold and bacteria and fungus? Absolutely. But we fail to realize how hard it is to dilute all the air in an environment. I often use the idea of if you have a pitcher of water and drop blue dye in it and you poke a hole in the bottom and let the water leak out, and you add more water as that blue dye leaks out, it's going to take a really long time for that water to turn clear, right? And may not ever turn clear. So that's the idea with cleaning air. You got to clean the air in the room. So really the only way for that to work, or I think the way you would want to do that, is after everyone's gone for the day, you turn on the UV lights in each room, and does that mean he's dog barking? And you turn on the light in each room, and you got to let that run overnight, and then turn it off as soon as people get there, because the UV light is harmful to humans too. That's a good question.
Can poorly controlled sleep apnea put one at risk for serious complications for COVID-19?
Absolutely, guys. So anything right now that affects your lung function or health in general is going to put you at higher risk for COVID-19. Now, there's different levels of sleep apnea, of course. There's a lot of people that just have mild sleep apnea, and while that's not good, that shouldn't really put you at that much increased risk. But if you're moderate or severe sleep apnea, you definitely want to be, now's a great time to be using your CPAP machine or dental device, whatever it may be, to reduce your sleep apnea. And as we've already talked about in top 10 immune boosting tips, which you'll get if you sign up on the website, sleep is a big part of it. If you're not sleeping, you can't really stimulate your immune system that well. So the other idea behind sleep apnea that I usually tell patients is when you have sleep apnea, even mild sleep apnea, you're suffocating yourself 15 times per hour. That's mild sleep apnea. I don't know anyone that wants to suffocate themselves more than once a day. None at all. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So when you have mild sleep apnea, you're actually suffocating yourself. And as you get to moderate and severe, those numbers are 30, 45, 60 times an hour. That's almost every minute. That's absolutely insane. And so every time you do that, you're dropping your oxygen saturation, you're stimulating your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, and you're putting your body in a stress response. And the stress response reduces your immune fighting abilities. So yeah, control your sleep apnea. It does put you at higher risk, but you can do things to try to modulate those risks. Eat the healthy foods, lose the weight, etc. Yeah, good question.
And on that topic about, your stress
This is Mimi,
response.
our nurse practitioner.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Mimi.
Oh, hi. I got the microphone to work now. Yay.
Good.
Yeah, so on that topic, I just want to sort of add a little bit about, how we're all like in this sympathetic nervous system mode all the time, and the higher the level of cortisol that you synthesize all day, like from either reading the news, stressing about this, is going to naturally synthesize less melatonin at night. Even if you sleep, you won't sleep as deeply. So that's also another thing that I want to talk about later on at some point about melatonin and its effect.
We'll go for it right now. So what are things we can use to improve sleep or decrease stress, anxiety, that kind of stuff, Mimi?
Well, I mean, for me, sort of like just hanging out with my dogs, and not really like after work, I just like go in a, phone free mode and not look at the news, not wanting to talk about, what's going on right now, and just kind of like shift myself into a parasympathetic mode. so that I can go to sleep and get deep sleep at night, so that I'm ready again the next morning to help my patients in the communities. So that's one thing I do, and also, of course, practicing all the things that I've been teaching everyone about sleeping and eating well as part of my routine. So so on the topic of melatonin, it is also very what is it? Sorry.
It's okay. You're on the spot.
I know. I'm very nervous when it comes to public speaking.
Well, melatonin is made in the pineal gland. It's made in response to the darkness. So it's really made in response to the eyes not sensing light. And that's one of the problems in our current status, especially with all this news, is we're glued to our iPads, our phones, our TVs, and all that light stimulates your eyes and inhibits the release of melatonin. The eyes only release melatonin in the absence of light. So turning off the devices, wearing blue blockers to block that light, starts the production of melatonin, which is made from serotonin. And if you haven't heard already, the majority of serotonin is made in your gut. 70% of it is estimated to be made in your gut. So if you're eating the wrong foods, if you have inflammatory gut issues, whatever it may be, you're already reducing your levels of serotonin, which means you're reducing your levels of melatonin. Then you're glued to a device, and now you really have low levels of melatonin. So you can boost melatonin or take a melatonin supplement. The usual dose is anywhere from 1 to 5 milligrams. I'd say the standard is about 4 milligrams. And it can help you get to sleep and help you stay asleep. It's one of the natural sleep aids we use in addition to valerian root, Chinese skull cap, passion flower, that kind of stuff. So now I bought you some time, Mimi. What did you want to say?
It's also melatonin's role in suppressing the inflammatory response too. It's very important in this time. At this time right now, it can counteract the severe inflammatory response and lower the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. And that's why we see that as we age, our melatonin production goes down. And that's why this whole COVID-19 affects more for the elderly than the children under 9 or 10, because they have abundant of melatonin. Also, the reason why we do not really supplement kids too with melatonin as part of sort of helping them go to sleep. So that's when when we treat patients, it's on an individual bio-individual basis. So sometimes we need melatonin, other times we don't. In other cases, I've seen melatonin causing palpitations for people before, and removing them actually help them sleep better and not have palpitations at night. So it is a very case-by-case basis. But for right now, they have found that melatonin does inhibit the inflammasome known as NLRP3.
Whoa.
And
that sounds like a mouthful.
yes. Well, I have a whole article on that. I can write a blog about that later. But supplementing with melatonin, just not just supplementing, but getting that cortisol down at night, and just getting the endogenous melatonin being synthesized to help for sleep, and also to counteract with the inflammatory response as well.
Cool. All right. Anything else, Mimi? Because we'll go to the next question.
Okay. No, nothing else.
All right, Aiden. It looks like we got some burning questions cooking.
Okay, so aside from self-quarantining and washing your hands, is there anything non-medical people can do to help out hospitals, especially when they start to get overwhelmed?
I'm actually glad you said that. There's a lot of posts coming out. I'm assuming everyone can hear the questions Aiden's saying. There's a lot of things people are doing to help out. Dr. Whitfield, a plastic surgeon in Austin, he posted an article on YouTube about how to make your own masks. And so if you have any cloth and are good at sewing or whatever it's called, and you can make masks to donate to hospitals and things, or anyone in need, that would be great. Now, there's some concerns that not all masks are N95 and all that stuff, but whatever the hospitals are willing to take and you're willing to make, I think that would be extremely useful. I know some people are making hand sanitizer and handing those out and things. I think that's good. The great part about right now is that we're all in a place that can help others. So even if it's not helping the hospital systems, let's not forget how many people are going to be financially struggling right now with the loss of jobs and the change in the service industry and all that. So don't hesitate to ask your friends. And right now we're supposed to be isolated and all that, so you're not really supposed to be hanging out with them. But maybe you can cook them some food, put it in a container that they can wipe down, and that way we're not spreading COVID while still helping people. But yeah, that's the main thing that comes to mind is making masks, as far as I know.
Okay, China was spraying a fog. What was that? Are they doing that to keep our streets sanitized?
So God knows what China was spraying. There's all kinds of things you can spray. Obviously, there's been memes about just helicopters dumping Lysol on everything. So there's no telling what they're spraying. You can spray hydrogen peroxide. You can spray ionized solutions. You can spray all kinds of stuff. So I don't think there's any special formula that kills COVID better than anything else. There's several options. Who knows? They might have been spraying bleach for all we know.
Okay, with the research coming out showing that there is more than one strain of COVID, what are the chances of getting COVID more than once?
So we don't know that answer, but I'd say it's very high likelihood. The best way to answer that question, I won't waste too much time, because if you watch my video that I did last night about influenza versus COVID-19, I go into that very specifically and why. So, but to give it briefly, there are already 2 proven strains. It's not an if, there is definitely 2 strains. The problem is this thing is mutated probably 3 times already in less than 6 months, which is wild for a virus. I'm going to go into boring detail about that in the video. But the idea is it transferred to humans. That's one mutation. It transferred from human to human. That's a second mutation. The next mutation is it made 2 separate strains. That's a third mutation. There's some concern that it spontaneously mutated in humans to go to dogs. That's potentially a 4th mutation. So we don't really know, but it seems to be mutating quickly. The other hopeful good news is that if you're immune to one strain, there's a likelihood that you are immune to the other strain. But there's no proof yet. So whatever breaks out in your country, in your state, in your city, whatever it may be, is usually going to be dominantly one strain. If you keep traveling around the world, then you can catch multiple strains and bring that to your town. So yet another reason to keep the social isolation going, so that at least we can spread this second strain going around the globe a little slower. Because the whole deal is we're overwhelming hospital systems. And I'm sure you've seen the reports by now that young people are getting sick also. So if young people are getting sick, that changes the entire dynamic of this thing that will overload the hospital systems. Did I answer the question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so
I tend to ramble.
Dr. Oubre has 2 kids. How are you explaining this to your kids?
Well, they're mostly staying with my ex-wife right now, so I haven't had to explain too much to them. And that's a good question. Someone had explained it online, and they had posted a story about it. Oh, I remember what it was. It was great. I do not take credit for this, but the way they were explaining it to their kids is, if everyone were in a swimming pool, there's some people that can swim naturally. There's some people that are wearing floaties, i.e. kids. And there are other people trying to help those people out of the water, but inevitably some people can't swim very well. But there's so many people in the pool that the people on the side of the pool trying to help them can't really help them get out. So in order to see those people in the pool, everyone needs to be socially isolated so that they can identify who the sick people are and give them the appropriate help. So that was kind of the explanation they were using, trying to understand, like, why are we socially isolated? And the idea is the people that are drowning are obviously the people getting sick. If there's too many people in the water, there's just too many people in the hospitals, and we need to clear out some of that so we can see who's actually sick and help them and give the right attention there. So I don't know, that's the best explanation I've heard. I probably butchered it. Whoever did it online did a better job. So someone Google that, find that story and post in the comments so that we can get a better explanation.
If someone is in the high risk category regarding COVID-19, like myself, who is immunosuppressed, my grandmother, who is 90 years old, if we end up having symptoms, at what point to seek out testing? Basically, is there data on how quickly high-risk individuals advance to a critical stage? So
that is the scary part that I cannot get a grasp of. There's just not enough data to really say, at least I don't know the data. Some people have a really rapid course, it seems like. Others have a very prolonged course, and then they get sick in the end. Like that guy I posted that visited Florida and went back to California. He died some 2 weeks later or something, and his course, once he got sick really quickly. So that's why one of the things I'm developing with this doc in Europe, his name's Dr. Yoshi, we started it this morning. as far as developing an Excel sheet where you can track your numbers and really watch how are you doing, how are you progressing, are you getting worse. What we're trying to promote is do a test at home without any, you don't need any device. It's just how long can you hold your breath. So everyone needs to be practicing holding your breath as long as you possibly can and writing down that number. As you get sick, you can continue doing that test. And if you can't hold your breath for decreasing amounts of time, then that's telling you that your condition is worsening. The concern is that some people are developing lung damage before they even feel that ill, and that's why their case progresses very quickly. It's not that it progressed that quickly, it's that your lungs are incredible at adapting. Your body's incredible at adapting to bad environment. So you adapted so long that by the time you sought help, it was a little too late. So we're trying to balance that, like what's the right time to go to the hospital so that you don't overwhelm the hospital system, but what's the right amount of time that you don't wait too long and can't get that help. So this breath holding exercise is what you'll hear more and more coming out of me, and there will be more videos with Dr. Yoshi and I. We're already planning on doing a live interview after this Q&A with him in Europe. And so we're developing that Excel sheet. I've already started this morning. It'll be going out. Sign up on our COVID-19 website. And as soon as that is developed, we will be releasing it. So the links are at the bottom if you haven't signed up already. I think I answered the question.
Okay, so if you have the symptoms and if you already self-quarantine, should you get tested, especially since there's a shortage?
Okay, yes, and I think that was part of the other question that I didn't answer. When to seek testing. So right now, what I would encourage anyone and everyone to do is if you do have symptoms, basically if you have symptoms of anything, it doesn't matter, a cold, flu, cough, runny nose, itchy, sneezing, whatever, then you are presumed positive for COVID-19 until you test negative. So it's important to get tested so that we can get accurate numbers in the US, but at the same time, there is a shortage. The big shortage was all last week. I fully believe that this coming week, there will be more and more ability to get tested. Once again, we're testing at our office in Austin, Texas. You can go to COVID-19 and there's a link to get tested and the current prices and all that. But I would encourage you to look up your state department. That's where you can get it done for free. Where are the drive-through testing? If you have symptoms, go get tested. Now, try not to expose the public. Don't go walking into the hospital. Don't go to the ER to get tested. That's silly. You want to go to places that are just doing testing that you're not going to overburden, but you can at least give America the data that you are another case that's positive. And if anyone in the household is positive and anyone else gets symptoms, you can pretty much assume everyone else is positive. So you don't necessarily need to test all those people. The only reason to do testing once the shortage is over on all of those people is just so we have accurate numbers in the United States as far as how many cases we have. So I will say it again, I believe our numbers in the US are drastically underreported because there are so many shortage of kits. There's so many people not even getting tested because they know there's a shortage, and it's taking forever to get the results. It's getting faster, but we still have patients that we swabbed on Monday. They still haven't gotten the results, and they said sometime next week. Does that mean Monday? Does that mean Friday? So there are patients from 6 days ago, if I did my math right, 6 days ago, that we still don't have results on. So how can you look at the news and be like, oh, the slope is decreasing when we have patients from 6 days ago that don't even know the results yet? That's scary.
If we become possibly sick with coronavirus, do we need to quit any of our current medication that might make it worse?
No, not at all. So because there's not enough information on any medication that would make it worse right now. Everything's up in the air. And then chances are you're on that medication to control something that's keeping your body actually healthier. So I know there's a lot of fear. That was one of the questions I definitely wanted to address. There's a lot of fear over this ACE inhibitor problem of, oh, this virus seems to upregulate our ACE proteins inside of our lungs. That makes you more likely to get it. I kind of don't believe that. That's totally an opinion. I don't have any research on that. This virus is so sticky that no matter if you have upregulated ACE or downregulated ACE, you have enough for this virus to stick to you. So your focus shouldn't be on decreasing your ACE. Your focus should be on increasing your lung capacity, increasing your body's health in general. So the current recommendation is that you don't want to stop your lisinopril or ACE inhibitor of anything that ends in a pril, and you don't want to stop your ARBs, the losartans or anything that ends in the sartan, I think, family are both medications that affect those. Also, if you're on steroids for your autoimmune condition or anything, then you would want to stay on those steroids to keep your body healthy. Yes, it's not ideal. You can do what you can to try to reverse autoimmunity or reverse inflammation by doing a lot of the things that we promote in our functional medicine practice. But chances are you can't stop your medication, and you want your body as healthy as possible when this thing hits. So if you stop your medication, that puts you in a destabilized condition. And if you're in a destabilized condition, you're actually going to be worse off than being on that medication before. So getting back to the ACE inhibitors and the ARBs, if you want to switch to a different medication, now might be a decent time to switch to a medicine. But in my opinion, and if I were on it, I would stay on the drug I were already on because I know that would work. I promise you that destabilized high blood pressure is going to be a higher risk than switching to a beta blocker to lower your risk. The ACE inhibitors and ARBs have been some of the best medications for blood pressure. So I would not be stopping it. That's a good question.
In a perfect world, would it be better for us, for the U.S. to have a mandatory 14 to 21 day lockdown like China did?
I mean, that's pretty hard to say. So should we quarantine and lock down the whole America? I would say, I think if you look at kind of a risks and benefits, yeah, there's a lot of benefit to doing that. We would stop the virus pretty quickly. But imagine how many people you would hurt in the process financially and maybe never recover. There's already a lot of people that are out of jobs. So if we completely lock down, I would be very hungry because I haven't had time to go to the grocery store because I've been working on this all day, all night. And so I think some things just can continue and we can slow the spread. There's a really neat link on my website that, well, I didn't design it, but it's a link to another website where it shows the spread of a potential virus, i.e. COVID-19, with quarantine and isolation. And so, yes, it's not a complete, if you completely lock down, you stop it very quickly. But if you do a majority closure, quarantine, self-isolation, then you actually slow it down tremendously. We're not looking at stopping this thing. I think the idea that this can be stopped from happening is way out of proportion. This is happening and is going to continue happening. It's not a matter of if you're going to get it, it's a matter of when you're going to get it, and it's a matter of can we not overwhelm our hospital system so there's unnecessary deaths. So if we do a complete lockdown, yes, that will slow the spread, but ultimately, as soon as people come out of hiding, it will start spreading again. We're not looking at trying to save the population from not getting it. We're trying to slow the spread. I think that's an important message that people need to get. You are going to get this. The estimate is at lowest 33% chance, at highest 75% chance that you're going to get it. And I think that why is it not 100%? It's because ultimately a lot of people live in rural places and never really see anyone, so they're already isolated. Otherwise, I believe if we all lived in large cities, it'd be closer to 100%. No one is immune to this thing, or at least not many.
I've read that as in the 1918 flu epidemic, sunlight kills the COVID-19 virus. Do we know if freezing temps kill it?
I don't know about freezing temps. I don't normally have to worry about that in Texas, so that's not something we're investigating here. I think if you look at the map, it's pretty darn cold in Canada, and there are cases in Canada, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty darn cold up there. So I'm going to assume that freezing temps are less likely to kill it. Things generally in heat in general and entropy and energy, if things heat up, they destabilize. So when things cool and cold, they rarely destabilize or break. Water is one of the only things that doesn't follow that property. Water, as it freezes, actually expands at that last 4 degrees of freezing. So it's the only thing that really damages and breaks stuff as it freezes. Most things, as they freeze, survive. Things with water inside them die when you freeze them. Like that's why vegetables and meats and stuff lose some flavor when you freeze them, because they've got water inside of their cells. And when you freeze them, it breaks the cells open. Well, as far as I know, viruses don't have a lot of water inside them. So even when it freezes, it's unlikely to burst the capsid, and then it's going to just come out. So heat seems to be the answer to cook this thing and get rid of it. But I think it's inappropriate to think that it's just going to die out when the summer hits. I think you can see cases closer to the equator, so it says it is still spreading. This guy seems to be spread a lot faster through touch and a lot easier through touch and surfaces, and it's really stable on surfaces. And we live in such an indoor environment now. So much of our areas are temperature controlled. So even if it is hot as Hades down here in Texas, we're still sitting in our air-conditioned car in our air-conditioned building spreading the virus around. So I don't think heat is the answer here. And I don't advise cooking humans. That will.
Okay, with hand sanitizer supplies running low, do you have a recipe to make hand sanitizer you would use and recommend for users?
I don't, but there's tons of YouTube recipes out there. I haven't looked at all. My pharmacist friend, Dr. Joby John, has been cooking them up at Lake Hills Pharmacy. So I know he's got a bunch of hand sanitizer that he's cooked up himself, and so you can go buy some there. If you're not in Texas, look up YouTube. There's tons of recipes. I think the idea that you need any perfect recipe is a little overblown. The idea is you just need anything that can spread the alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, whatever it may be. Now remember, hydrogen peroxide dies in light. That's why it's in a brown opaque container. So if you do make something with hydrogen peroxide, it needs to stay in a dark opaque container, not exposed to light. And then of course, once it's out in the air, it destabilizes also. So it's not like you can just leave that out in the open as a tub to scoop from. It needs to be in a dispenser. So there's even thieves oils, essential oils and stuff. One of the things I don't like about hand sanitizers is most of the Purell crap that's out there, they put a ton of chemicals in it and it's not good for your skin. So while we're doing a great job of sanitizing everything, we're also exposing people to a lot of chemicals. I wasn't a believer in it the longest time, but your skin is your second largest organ, a very large organ, and it has a great absorption pattern. That's why we put drugs on the skin, because your skin has a good absorption pattern. So you put all those chemicals from Purell and all that bleach crap on your skin, you're gonna absorb it. So when you're doing wipe downs and things with bleach and all these Lysol products, you look at the label. You're gonna see all kinds of chemicals you don't know how to pronounce. So put on gloves when you're wiping stuff down, if you have gloves, if you're not on shortage, or use like dishwashing gloves that you can reuse and wipe things down so that your skin is not exposed to that much stuff. And use soap and water as much as possible. I feel sorry for all my eczema patients and friends out there who have eczema on their hands. They've got to be dying with all these chemicals and things. So do the best you can at washing your hands. If you do have eczema, dry, cracking skin and all that, then try not to use any steroids, because the steroids are going to reduce your immune system, right? Even topically, not as much. So I'm not telling you don't use it, but use as little as possible. And for all my eczema patients, after you wash your hands, please go put some lotion or something on in order to restore that skin barrier, because the very thing that's destroying the virus, the soap particles, it's also destroying your oil layers that are right beneath the skin. As you destroy those oil layers, you start losing moisture, and as that moisture seeps out, you get drier skin and the eczema gets worse. And now I'm rambling on a very simple question. So next.
Are the finger oxygen monitors reliable for testing, and
Absolutely.
how are these helpful? You mentioned this in the last meeting.
Yeah, so the oxygen sensors are great at measuring your oxygen level. Now, keep in mind, just like I said earlier, the lungs are incredibly good at adapting to the environment. And so even if you're sick, even if you're struggling to breathe, you can have very normal oxygen levels. If you look at my story back from January when I got a nasty pleural effusion, I had to have it drained and all that, even when I was at the sickest, when I had basically working off of one lung, my oxygen saturation was perfectly fine. I'm healthy, I'm younger, I'm an athlete. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I held my oxygen saturation. But your lungs are really good at keeping that oxygen saturation up, even though you might be breathing faster and your heart might be straining more. So that's why in my document I'm putting together, my Excel sheet for you to track all of your numbers, it's not just relying on oxygen saturation. If your oxygen saturation is staying at 98%, but your heart rate is going from 60 to 70 to 80 to 90 to 100, 110, and your breathing rate is going from 16 to 20 to 24, you know you're getting in trouble. So one of the things I'll be doing is that Excel sheet will help you track your numbers. It'll be useful for you to give your doctor for the time that if you do get sick, and he or she can use those numbers to help you decide if you need further care or not. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing some explainer videos of what happens if my numbers are going up. When is the right time to get evaluated? So I guess to answer the original question, those pulse ox meters are really accurate. They are really good. They're cheap. You can usually get them on Amazon. They're probably completely sold out now, but if you have one, use them. Make sure it's got good batteries in it, and they work really well. We've got several in the office that we'll be testing patients with.
With younger and healthier people being hospitalized and dying, what qualifies as a high-risk individual?
So the high-risk individuals are anyone with any kind of lung issues. So whether it be asthma, COPD, smokers, gosh, guys, if you smoke at all, now's the time to put it down and not ask another question. No whining, no complaining. Just put it down and stop smoking, because you are very high risk. And so anyone with any kind of lung pathologies, immunosuppression, think people who have had chemo already, people who are on steroids, people are on these autoimmune drugs to suppress their autoimmune condition. It also suppresses their immune system. That's why they work for autoimmunity. I'm sure there was numerous I'm missing. Anyone with bone marrow issues, nutrient dysfunctions. If your B12 levels are low, I've seen people with pancytopenia, where that means their white blood cells, the red blood cells, and their platelets are all reduced because they just don't have enough B12 to create new blood vessels. The methylation is heavily used in bone marrow production of blood cells. So if you don't have enough methylation support, that means B vitamins, as Aubrey mentioned earlier, in your food, then you don't have enough nutrients, enough B vitamins to make more cells. Same goes for iron. If your iron levels are low, you can't make enough cells. We too heavily think of iron as a blood cell carrying, only the blood cells use iron. I usually say that iron is its 10% job is carrying oxygen around the body. The other 90% job is actually manufacturing energy in every cell. So you can have as much oxygen in your bloodstream. By the way, that 10%, 90% is totally made up. I just think it does a bigger role inside the cell than it does carrying the oxygen. You can carry as much oxygen around in your bloodstream as you want, but if you can't use it inside the cell to make energy, then it's pointless. So make sure you're eating iron-rich foods. Make sure you have enough stomach acid to digest that iron and break it apart from your food. Too much has red meat gotten the claim to fame for having iron. Yes, it's red. That's why it's red, because of the iron and all that. But spinach and leafy vegetables actually have just as much iron as meat. But if you don't have enough stomach acid because you're on Zantac or the stomach acid reducers, the Prilosec, Nexiums, omeprazoles, all that, if you're reducing your stomach acid, you can't actually break down your food enough to separate that iron. And another reason to be B12 deficient is actually low stomach acid. And then metformin is another reason to have low B12. I love metformin, but one of its side effects is the inability to extract B12 from food and absorb it. So if you're on metformin, now would be a good time to start taking some B12. You can't overdose on B12, but I would watch out for methyl B12. You can overdose on methyl B12 if you have certain mutations. Overdosing on methyl B12 is just severe anxiety and crushing sensations. It's not fun to overdose on methyl B12. The antidote is niacin, actually. So, and other demethylating things, but that's enough on that. So, I don't remember the question.
Okay, some reports say some people have immunity to COVID. Do you believe this?
No, I don't, and I think it's proving it. If we had enough people with any kind of immunity, this would not be the pandemic it is. Now, naturally, some people will be immune to it. They don't have the right gene, or their ACE receptor looks kind of funny. It's the same thing with HIV. There are people that are naturally, one of my patients is a wild type and is completely immune from HIV. He cannot get it. It's impossible. And so there are people that will be immune, but it's going to be a small percentage, and it's just lucky. And you won't know. There's no test to prove it that I know of.
Dear friend in Missouri works at a hospital. In the last 24 hours, they had a child and a young woman who had severe gastrointestinal symptoms. The young woman was vomiting blood, no COVID symptoms, but both tested positive for COVID-19. Are those symptoms becoming a part of COVID outbreak?
So with this whole toilet paper shortage, I did kind of look up the numbers on the GI distress, and COVID-19 can cause GI distress. That is real. It's a very small percentage. I forget the number. It's on my first COVID-19 update presentation. I put the numbers. It's on that PowerPoint. If you subscribe, you'll get a link to all my PowerPoints. It's at the end of the PowerPoint somewhere. And I kind of look it up if someone else is talking, but we don't know, and who knows? Maybe that was a spontaneous. Maybe that was another mutation of the COVID virus that they got, and it was heavily GI involved, or maybe that person has a genetic weakness. It was her and her son. It sounds like maybe that person has a genetic weakness for COVID to infect the stomach more than the lungs, but primarily this is a lung eater. This is a respiratory virus.
So I was going to say,
Go for it, Aubrey.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was a study from China on March 9th, basically showing that viral RNA was found in stool samples and remaining positive long after the respiratory samples were negative. And they were hypothesizing that it may colonize first in the gut and then, of course, just affect the respiratory system more. But the study basically was to say that it was more so like food and supplement related, like reduce all the inflammatory foods and feed the good microbiome, right? So increase your probiotics and try to maintain a healthy gut and reduce inflammatory foods. Because I mean, your immune system's found in your gut. A big majority of it is, right? But I was gonna say, I tried to look into that too after hearing about that, but that's the only thing that I could find.
I found the number.
Oh, wow.
Diarrhea is 3.7%. That's the only GI symptom. Now, that being said, we see people with the flu virus, and they commonly have GI upset, whether that's nausea, vomiting. Oh, no, I lied. I'm sorry. There is nausea and vomiting is 5%. Diarrhea is 3.7%. Now, it doesn't say if those are separate people or the same people, but So even at most, that's 8.7% of people that can get symptoms. So please don't go out and buy more toilet paper. We're already on shortage. But I think that's going to be a rare issue. But once again, you can't believe any data right now. It's just still too young. So we're making the best decisions we can. But people usually don't die of raging diarrhea, right? In America, there's fluids, although that will probably go in shortage. So it's unlikely that diarrhea is going to be the reason you die. So the real issue is lung eater. You cannot get new lungs, but you can poop yourself for quite a while.
How much vitamin C and vitamin D should you take to boost your immune system?
So the vitamin C recommendation is it usually comes in 500 milligram capsules, or you can find it in the powder. And the usual recommendation is anywhere from 500 to 1,000 milligrams twice a day. We do high dose vitamin C infusions in the practice to really boost the immune system. So that's a 25,000 milligram infusion IV. So it's 100% bioavailable. I would not advise you to try to swallow 25,000 milligrams of vitamin C because you have what's called bowel tolerance. If you take too much vitamin C, you will what's called disaster pants and poop yourself because it is a laxative at really high doses. Now, if you can work your way up on vitamin C to higher dosages, I'd say there's no real research proving immune boosting against COVID virus with vitamin C orally or IV. We do it because we think it works, and we've had good success with it against other viruses, including EBV. It's one of the things that's actually really proven for us. Epstein-Barr or mono or whatever you want to call that virus. High-dose vitamin C at even higher doses, upwards of 100,000 milligrams IV, has shown reduction in EBV titers and works quite well. So we assume it works for this virus as well. There's no proof. The vitamin D levels that you want to aim for, the amount to take, I'm going to disagree from the conventional paradigm of, just take 1,000 milligrams per day. We usually recommend at minimum 5,000 units. Did I say milligrams a second ago? 5,000 units per day. And we often recommend 10,000 units per day. We also like the one from Orthomolecular where it's 50,000 once a week. That's a really good dose. It's fat soluble, and so it maintains. The main thing you're looking for, though, is you're looking for vitamin D levels over 60 and below 125. You don't want to go too high. And so really just taking vitamin D, you won't really know without checking your levels. So I would encourage you to check your levels and replace based on what your levels are and recheck to see if it's working. It is a fat soluble vitamin, so it takes a while to restore your entire body's level of vitamin D. So that's to my point earlier of saying, hey, you can start taking vitamins and supplements, but it's going to take a while to get normal. You can get sunlight, that works, but the recommendation is you have to spend 30 minutes outside in your skivvies in order to get enough vitamin D. So right now we wear sunscreen, we wear clothing, and so it lowers how much vitamin D you actually activate from the sun. There's Chris Kresser is putting out some stuff that says maybe we shouldn't be taking higher doses of vitamin D and vitamin A. He says that there's some concern of boosting the immune system too much or something or other. I'm going to disagree a little bit with Chris Kresser here. I don't think there's enough data to say don't take vitamin D. I'm still taking my vitamin D and vitamin C. So, and I just did my infusion. I'm still a little sore where the needle went in because I'm a sissy. And so I did mine, what was that, Thursday? Yeah, I think I answered the question.
What are your thoughts on colloidal silver and active charcoal at this time as a preventative measure?
Oh, man. So I'm not a big fan of colloidal silver. I just don't get it. You know, there's a lot of things we do in functional medicine, like I just talked about with this high dose vitamin C, that's totally unnatural, right? There are a lot of things we do in functional medicine that's natural, and you could do it without any medical help. You could eat it, you could buy it, right? But there are some things we do that are just unnatural, including vitamin C. That infusion of 25,000 milligrams is something like 200 oranges or something. That's just outrageous. You can never eat that many oranges. So colloidal silver falls into that category of one of those things that you can't find in nature, but you can make it, and it does work. There are studies proving that colloidal silver works. I just find it hard to believe, with all the metal chelating we do of taking lead and mercury and gadolinium and stuff out of people, I just can't get on board with taking mega doses of silver to do anything. I don't know why. It's a personal opinion and a bias against colloidal silver. So I'm sorry for anyone that I'm offending. It does work. I've seen it work for others. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Colloidal silver is not supposed to be absorbable. It's in this small form, some sort of triangle, something or other that I don't fully understand because I don't really care enough about colloidal silver. So I would basically say that colloidal silver does have proof that it works, but I think it's over marketed, overhyped, and that's why I'm biased against it, because I don't think it works for everything it's claimed to work for. It was colloidal silver. Oh, and charcoal. Charcoal's not going to help in this situation. Yeah, activated charcoal is not really going to help you in this situation that I know of. I mean, the way it may be promoted is, oh, activated charcoal can bind the viral particles. These viral particles are inside of your cells. Charcoal outside of your cells. Charcoal not in your bloodstream. Charcoal is in your gut. So if your lungs are in your gut, then by all means, it may help you there, but it's not. So charcoal is not going to help bind up viral particles. It might help bind up viral particles in your intestines, but good luck with that, because this is going to spread cell to cell through your bloodstream, and the charcoal is never going to have any access to that. Same thing will go for the TRS spray. The TRS spray is theorized to be in, it's another, it's not a charcoal product. What is it? It's a binder. Anyway, TRS is in the bloodstream supposedly, and so I just don't think it's going to pull up viral particles. Viral particles are kind of like a protein mixture. It's not alcohol, for example, gets bound up by charcoal. It's not a molecule. It's a viral capsid. So no, charcoal might constipate you. I don't think it's going to help here. That's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
Is there any circumstances where people should fast with COVID-19?
So I once again, this will not be a researched topic. Aubrey, do you know of any research in the immune world with fasting?
Not in response to COVID, no, but I feel
Just
like
in general, even if it's not COVID.
yeah, I think fasting, like in conjunction, especially with specific breathing methods like Wim Hof, have been shown to boost your immune system. But you need time to clear out, right? Fully clear out your digestive tract, fully kind of dip into those detox stores and push, old cells out. I think fasting is incredibly beneficial, but I think it needs to be on a case-by-case basis. And you need to do it more in a way that supports your body, because if you fast too long and you affect like your cortisol or your adrenals and overtax them, then you can end up adding more stress to your body and perpetuating any symptoms.
I think I like that recommendation. So I think our stance will be that fasting is most likely beneficial for your immune system. I am doing a 24-hour fast right now. I think for the general public and the people watching, the best advice we can give is, by all means, you should at least be doing a 12-hour fast. We ain't that hungry, right? So at least be doing 12-hour fast overnight. So what that means is when you stop eating, that includes wine, that includes alcohol, that includes anything you're snacking on. When you stop eating at night, that's the time you cannot eat until the next morning. So if you're snacking until 10 o'clock, guess what? Your butt is waiting until 10 a.m. before you can eat. So choose your snacks wisely or don't eat them. So in general, 12 hours is minimum and considered good enough. But really, you should be aiming for a 16-hour fasting window in order to get the benefits. And you don't necessarily have to do this every day, although now might be a good time to start experimenting with that. And so if you can get to a 16-hour fast, which means you stop eating at 8 p.m. and you don't eat anything until noon, that includes creamer in your coffee. That includes stevia and sweeteners and calories in your coffee, tea in the morning. It's really no calories until noon. So although we can't prove that it's research beneficial for fasting, I like this topic. Even though it's not research, it's good. So even though we don't have research proving, what I can link is that if you don't fast, you have naturally you have higher insulin levels, and insulin in abundance has proven to be immune reducing, immune suppressing. So if you fast, your insulin levels drop, and that's a stimulus to the body to heal and repair. To Aubrey's point of, now's not the time to do your 3-day fast. A 3-day fast is stress to the body if you have not been doing it before. So I would not encourage you to fast during your illness or long-term fasting. I think at most what I would ask the general public to do is a 3-day, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or something like that, separated 16-hour fast, a daily 12-hour fast, no questions asked, but on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, do a 16-hour fast, and then consider turning one of those 16-hour fasts into a 24-hour fast like I'm doing right now. I didn't eat much of a dinner last night, but I stopped eating at like 7 o'clock. So tonight I'm not going to eat anything until 7 o'clock. I'm doing a 24-hour fast, but that's not something you obviously do every day because you wouldn't eat anything. But maybe once a week you would do a 24-hour fast if your body's ready for it. But listen to your body. If you're shaking and quivering and feel like crap, it's probably not good for you. So start slow, start at 12 hours, work your way up to 16 hours, and then try a 24-hour. I wouldn't be doing any 3-day fast right now.
No, and I do want to kind of jump in on that and say, please do not eat 3 hours within going to bed, because that is going to, Dr. Oubre.
Why are you picking on me? Why are you picking on me? I feel like you're talking to me right now.
Yeah, it will severely disrupt your circadian rhythm. It's not going to let detoxing be any easier overnight. It's going to affect your sleep and your hormones. So just try to do it a little bit earlier before you go to bed, not just kind of, if you do a 24-hour fast, don't be like, okay, here comes 10 p.m. and you eat 1,500 calories in one meal right before bed. You're going to severely, severely affect your body in a negative way.
But it's so good when you're fasting.
I know. Just make it
So,
work.
so the idea behind that makes sense. And when you say don't eat that close to bed, it sounds like, hey, yeah, it's just a nutritionist talk. But think about it, guys. If you put food in your stomach, breaking down food from a macro structure into a microscopic molecule is an energy intensive process. If I gave you all the resources in the world and the biggest, coolest lab and Elon Musk and all that, and I gave you a hamburger and said, I want you to break this down into molecules where your body can absorb it, you'd have a really hard time doing that. Yet we expect our intestinal tract we can shove anything down it and it's just going to magically break it into molecules and we can absorb it. No, it is an energy intensive process to break down food. So if you're putting food in your stomach and then going to sleep, what you're trying to do during sleep is you're trying to rest and restore all of the organs of the body. That's why you're asleep. You're trying to, as Dr. Perlmutter talked about in his brainwash book, is brainwash the brain. That happens overnight in your deep sleep. Well, if your body's too busy trying to break down food into molecules, they can't focus on rest and restoration and cleaning out the brain. It's no different than our office. If we worked all day long, then the cleaning crew would never be able to clean this place thoroughly because we're too busy in it. So give your gut the break it needs overnight while you're resting so that you can get deeper sleep and actually pressure wash some of those things. I may not be the best at it, but that's the advice. Okay, are we running out of questions? 4-minute timer.
Okay.
Make it good.
If you suspect you have COVID, should you start working out to protect your lungs?
So no, well, if you suspect you have COVID, you should not be pushing your body in general. So no, I would not encourage exercise. Why are you laughing at me, Oubre? You shouldn't run a half marathon when you have a respiratory illness that could questionably be COVID-19 like I did. It substantially made me worse. Oubre supported it, so it's partially her fault as well.
What am I supposed to do?
So no, in general, the rule is if you have a fever, you should not be working out. But I would extend that even though COVID isn't going to cause a fever in everyone, although I'm looking at the data, it's 88% likely to cause a fever. You shouldn't be working out. Now, I do want to make sure we emphasize that right now, while you're quarantined and have all the time in the world, you should be working out because you want to be pushing that lung function to increase your lung capacity as quickly as you can. Don't overdo it because remember, every time you work out, it causes your body to break down a little bit, then you have to recover. So if you're pushing it too hard, you'll end up in a broken down situation. That's not what you want with this COVID virus. So whatever exercise you're already doing, great, keep doing it. See if you can amp it up. No more than 10% per week. Now, I know you have all the time in the world, so you could go for a 10-mile walk, but if you've only been doing half-mile walks, now's not the time to jump to 10 miles, 10% per week. So you can do that half a mile every day, but maybe not jump up too much. Go to 0.6 miles the next week or whatever it may be. So yes, exercise. Yes, get those lungs moving. Practice Wim Hof to, and if you don't know what Wim Hof is, Google it. You'll find way too much stuff on there. And I think Oubre, you could probably prepare something and send out some Wim Hof breathing exercises.
Yeah, I'll add it to the PDF that we're going to send out.
Okay. Wim Hof is spelled he's a crazy guy. He's pretty easy.
HOF. He's fantastic.
Just as insane as his name looks.
I know. It's one F.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Wim Hof, Iceman. Crazy man.
We have a question from an 11-year-old.
Oh, we have a question from an 11-year-old. Do tell. What's his name?
I don't know. Just
her name.
If washing your hands kills corona, why can you not soap your insides?
I love that. So actually, your body does kind of soap its insides already. So one of the things that your stomach acid does is I always want to say the word saponification, and I think it's the other word, emulsification. So the emulsification process is like a soaping thing that happens. So you take these large fat globules, this is what stomach acid does. It takes these large fat globules and it breaks it down into smaller particles. Then when it gets to the intestines, your bile is released, and that breaks it down even further. I think that's the saponification process, actually. And then you've destroyed viral particles that have entered your stomach. That's another reason why I'm not really expecting the virus to cause a lot of GI, because it's primarily sticking in the lungs, and your stomach can kill it upon entry. Now, as Aubrey mentioned, you can poop out the particles, but that's because you have cells down there past your digestive system. Anyway, so no, unfortunately, you can't drink soap. That will kill you, and that's not a good idea. And you can't really soap your lungs, because in my video on the COVID versus influenza, I talked a lot about there's a microscopic layer between oxygen or air coming in and your blood vessel to try to accept that oxygen through that microscopic little layer. And if you do anything to disrupt that layer, then you can't get oxygen out of the air. You can breathe as much of it as you want to, but your cells won't actually get the oxygen. And so there's nothing you can put down your lungs that wouldn't expand that layer. And then soap is inflammatory to your insides, so that would actually cause a lot more problem. Maybe this isn't cool anymore, but when I was a kid, 11 years old, this did happen to me. I think I was like 7. They used to, if you said a bad word, put soap in your mouth. And true story, I was in daycare, I had to put soap in my mouth. So if you do that, you will quickly realize how nasty and disgusting it is, and why you should never say bad words. And so no, we cannot soap our insides, unfortunately. It's a good question. I like it. Creative. Are we done with questions? All right, 3 o'clock. So I think this was an overwhelming success once again. So you guys are coming up with great questions, and so we'll keep doing these Q&As as long as there's interest, as long as there's questions going on. So I don't want to say a formal time yet, but subscribe to our, one more pitch for our online thing. Subscribe to our online email sequence, and we'll be announcing when we formally do the next Q&A. And of course, in the meantime, you can submit questions through Facebook and our various posts. We do the best we can. We all contribute to Instagram and Facebook, and we all try to answer questions as best we can. But ultimately, we're still seeing patients 8 to 5, although it's online. So thank you for my staff for coming in on a Saturday at 2 o'clock and volunteering their time to spread this information to the public. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Can I ask you a quick question? What do we say to the people who've asked a question, but we weren't yet able to get to them? How do we let them know that we answer those questions?
So what we're doing is we're rolling over those questions for the next video, although I guess we keep getting more questions and we don't get to answer the previous questions. Yeah. So I guess what we'll do at some point is not do a live Q&A, and we'll just do a Q&A maybe inside the office and answer all of these questions that are not being answered. So please keep the questions rolling. We obviously can't answer all of them, but we'll try to prioritize and get the burning questions and the ones that are really good out there. So yeah, we'll do our best to keep trying. All right, well, this is Oubre Medical signing off. You guys sign up, and we'll see you guys around.